Brexit is an historic mistake. It forgets the lessons of Britain's past. It forgets the value of immigrants. It forgets that we cannot build a new empire by force. It forgets that in the modern world, our nation will not flourish through isolation, but connection, cooperation, and a new vision for the common good. Brexit forgets why this continent came together after 2 bloody wars.
Because we have a duty to tell our constituents the truth, even when they passionately disagree. We owe to them not only our industry, but also our judgment. We are trusted representatives, not unthinking delegates. So why do so many in this House continue to support Brexit when they know it will wreck jobs, the NHS, and our standing in the world? This is the fundamental dishonesty of the heart of the Brexit debate. Most MPs now recognise in private, but do not say it in public. Brexit is a con, a trick, a swindle, a fraud, a deception that will hurt most of those people it promised to help, a dangerous fantasy which will make every problem it claims to solve worse, a campaign won on false promises and lies. Vote Leave and Leave EU both broke the law. Russian interference is beyond reasonable doubt. And by now, every single campaign promise made in 2016 has become unstuck. Brexit will not enrich our NHS, it will impoverish it. Our trade deal with Donald Trump will see the US corporations privatise and dismantle the NHS one bed at a time. And even those promises on immigration, which has so greatly enriched our country, are a lie. After Brexit, immigration will go up, not down. When we enter into negotiations with countries like India and China, they will ask for 3 things: visas, visas and more visas. And they will get them because we will be weak.
Right, it's not about trade or Europe or anything like that. It's all about immigration. It's to stop the Muslims from coming into this country. Simple as that.
Do you think you voted to leave the EU to stop Muslims coming to the country?
To stop immigration.
Right.
But the movement of people in Europe, fair enough. But not from Africa, Syria, Iraq, everywhere.
More striking is if you look back through history. So we're going to take that same statistic, net migration, as a percentage of the population, going all the way back to the Victorian period here. And, well, you can see the story. We have never seen anything quite like this. Actually, for most of the 19th century, people were leaving the country in net terms. But then you have this kind of period, hundreds of thousands under David Cameron, and then post-Brexit, it went through the roof. And when we just look back at those more recent numbers, OK, there's a bit of context that's worth just remembering here. Of course, 2016, you had Brexit, the EU referendum, then you had COVID, so you can probably note that period there. So, you know, migration dropping down a lot there, a lot of people leaving as well. But then it's those new Brexit rules and new immigration rules coming in that really kickstarts that big leap in migration, in net migration. And when you look at where people are coming from or indeed going to, well, this is EU citizens. And you can see before Brexit, it was relatively strong, hundreds of thousands, and then into negative territory after Brexit. That's EU citizens leaving the UK. Then you've got UK citizens, and then consider this, non-EU citizens coming into the UK in their droves, really, faster than we've ever seen before.
Then there's the myth about restoring parliamentary sovereignty. The last 2 years have shown what a joke that is. The Prime Minister has hoarded power like a deluded 21st century Henry VIII. Impact assessments have been hidden, votes resisted and blocked, simple opponents of government policies bullied and threatened to get into line. Even when we forced this meaningful vote, the Prime Minister cancelled it, certain we would reject her disastrous deal. And oh, we will reject it, because this is a lose-lose compromise which offers no certainty for our future. All it guarantees is more years of negotiation headed by the same clowns who guided us into this farce in the first place. Mr. Speaker, we are suffering from a crisis of leadership in our hour of need. This country's greatest moments came when we showed courage, not when we appeased. The courage of Wilberforce to emancipate the slaves against the anger of the British ruling class. The courage of Winston Churchill to declare war on Hitler against the appeasers in his cabinet and the country. The courage of Attlee and Bevin to nationalise the health service against doctors who protested that it was not right. Today we must be bold, because the challenges we face are just as extreme. We must not be afraid to tell the truth to those who disagree. Friends on this side of the House tell me to appease Labour voters in industrial towns, the former miners, the factory workers, those who feel they've been left behind. I say we must not patronise them with cowardice. Let's tell them the truth. You were sold a lie. Parts of the media used your fears to sell papers and boost viewing figures. Nigel Farage and Boris Johnson exploited the same prejudice to win votes. Shame on them. Immigrants have not taken your jobs. Our schools and colleges failed to give you the skills. Hospitals are not crumbling because of health tourists, not because of decades of austerity that ground them down to the bone. You cannot afford a house because both parties failed to build, not because of Mohammed down the road who moved in. And wealth was hoarded in London when it should have been shared across the country. Blame us. Blame Westminster. Do not blame Brussels for our own country's mistakes. And do not be angry at us for telling you the truth. Be angry at the chancellors who sold you a lie. As Martin Luther King said long ago, there comes a time when silence is betrayal. So just as I speak plainly to the government this time around, let me also speak to the opposition about some home truths. There is no left-wing justification for Brexit. Ditching workers' rights, social protections and ending environmental cooperation is not progressive. This is a project about neoliberal deregulation. It's Thatcherism on steroids pushed by her modern-day disciples. Leaving the EU will not free us from the injustices of global capitalism. It will make us subordinate to Trump's US. Socialism confined to one country will not work. Whether you like it or not, the world we live in is global. We can only fix the rigged system if we cooperate across border lines. The party of Keir Hardie has always been international. We must not let down our young supporters by failing to stand with them at the biggest issue of our lives. If we remain in the EU, we can reform it from the top table, share the load of mass migration, address excesses of bureaucracy and fix the inequalities between creditor and debtor. We can recharge the economy. We can refuel the NHS. We can build the houses that we need after years of hurt. Hope is what we need. Remain in the EU. Give the Britain a second opportunity to decide.
It's not it. After the global embarrassment of Suez, Britain became the sick man of Europe. The EEC was set up in 1958, but Britain did not join until 1973. In those years, GDP per head rose 95% in France, Italy and West Germany. Britain only grew by half that rate. Our industry and economy fell behind. Mr. Speaker, Europe gave post-imperial Britain a chance to regain some wealth and dignity. In the 40 years since our economy grew faster than France, Germany and Italy, we restored our position on the global stage. But it was not only our prosperity that increased. Our allies in the US respected us for our seat at the top table of Europe, and the rest of the world saw us become a confident nation again, a grown-up country prepared to give and take for the greater good. The Brexiter promise to take back control in 2016 was nothing more than a deluded fantasy. A lie that divided friends and families, a lie that pandered to racism and xenophobia, a lie that caused an extra 638 hate crimes per month. What does it say about the United Kingdom when the UN sends rapporteurs to warn us of increased racism in our country? What does it say about Britain when our politicians play to the fears of migrant, racist and religions to win votes? What does it say when Nigel Farage stood in front of a Nazi-inspired poster of refugees with the caption "Breaking Point"? The founder of the Labour Party, Keir Hardie, spoke of the deal does not take back control, it gives it away. It surrenders our voting rights in the European Council, the Commission, the Parliament for nothing in return, and for that reason I cannot vote for any form of Brexit, because every form of Brexit is worse for my constituents.